Welcome to episode 8 of Chrome Music Lab, and this episode is about MIDI. MIDI stands for Musical Instrument Digital Interface, and we are using that in Chrome Music Lab. There's a couple different ways to use it, but the most important way is that when you create something in Chrome Music Lab, you can save it as a MIDI file, which then serves as basically kind of a universal musical language that you can then import into any kind of music creation, music production software. You can even use it to control external instruments that can be controlled by MIDI, like synthesizers or different keyboards or samplers, whatever. It really, MIDI is kind of like the bridge between all of these different ways of technology, musical technology, the way that it talks to itself. And so we're going to learn how to take something very simple like something we created in Chrome Music Lab and then turn it into a bigger idea. So this is Shared Piano, another Google app. And just a moment ago, we were talking about how with Chrome Music Lab, we can export MIDI. But I want to look at here, I can use my computer keyboard. I'm using my laptop to press the letters and it makes the keys go. But we can also use an external, what's called a MIDI controller. And I have a keyboard right here that when I play, because I have a MIDI to USB cable, I can then input on my computer. So this is really cool because we're going to use this with Chrome Music Lab in a second, and I'll show you what I mean. So there's a button in the bottom. It says MIDI. There's a picture of a keyboard, just like I got here, and I'm going to press that button. And it says, use your MIDI keyboard to add notes, okay? So instead of pointing and clicking like is what you were used to, I can go like this. Oops, I got to press the button again. So wherever I'm pressing, it's writing a note. So this is just another great tool that you can use, and there's a lot more to this than what I just did, but I just want to show you how this MIDI can be used to help with the creative process. Let's hear what this sounds like. Okay, so it's just like this pattern. It sounds kind of cool. We could like sculpt this back, turn this into something if we wanted, so that, like, get rid of like the repeating notes and so it doesn't sound so muddy. Cool. All right, let's get rid of that. Start over. So what Chrome Music Lab really does is it teaches us how to automate music, and it gives us the ability to organize tones in time and space. And so if we go from left to right, it's in time, I'm gonna make like a little rhythm here going left to right. And then if we go, from top to bottom, creates all these tones. So there's 2 octaves of, what we played on the xylophone or what we played on the piano, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Let's hear that actually. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do, do, do. Now when I press play, it's just going to play it. All right, so the last group of classes, this is like episode 8. I've made a ton of videos that show how how to kind of start with some of the basic building blocks of creating a piece of music. And we talked about the alphabet of melody, the building blocks of chords. We've talked about things like inversions, arpeggios, melodies, how to create a melody, and all these different ideas that we're going to put together to make a simple composition, simple piece of music in Chrome Music Lab, and then we're going to export it to MIDI, and I'm going to show you how to take a really simple idea and then turn it into something that actually sounds like a piece of music, a bigger idea with a little bit of production value. So what we're going to do is we're just going to start with some chords. Now, if you don't know how to make a chord, I recommend you start at the beginning of the video series that I've made. And I think episode 2 talks about chords, but if you haven't watched any of them, just go through all of them and you will have a comprehensive understanding of everything that I'm about to do right now. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to, for each measure, I'm just going to make a chord. Okay, so that chord's based off of Fa. This one's based off of Re, so it's the 2 chord. This one's going to be based off of La, the 6 chord. And then I'm going to base this one off of Sol, it's the 5 chord. So let's hear that. Let's give it some rhythm. Okay, I like it. Now we've got these chords and we want to make them into an arpeggio. So basically that means we're going to take the notes of the chord and we're going to make each one of those notes like a pulse, okay? Kind of like a harp. That's what that word literally means. Arpeggio means to play on the harp in Italian. So we're taking these notes of the chord and stretching them out across the measure. So it kind of, this is what's called an ascending and descending, where, chord is made of a root, third, fifth, or even simpler, you could, think of it, the low harmony, the middle harmony, and the high harmony. So what we're doing is we're going low, high, middle, high, low, high, middle, high. And that's the same pattern we're applying to each chord here. So we're going to the root, so the root, third, fifth, third. Okay, so now it takes up a lot more space. There's not just like a lot of empty space. And it's going to start to sound like a piece of music. Okay, at this point, we have all we need to export it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to where it says save at the bottom. And, we got a couple options here. We can copy the link, which means that thing that we made will be associated with this link and we can send it to our friends. They can add to it, send it back. It's a really cool thing. It doesn't even have a file. It just becomes a link that anyone with a web browser can open. We can also embed the code, which copy code, and you can embed your song on a web page if you have one. Then we can download MIDI, which is what we want to do, and then download WAV, which is just the audio file. So if you wanted to put it into a recording software and play along with it or whatever. But what we want to do is download the MIDI, so that's what I'm going to do. Okay, goes to the bottom. And I'm going to click on that. Okay, so it's opened up what is my DAW, my digital audio workstation, and it's given me a bunch of different instruments here. So the DAW that I have is called Logic. It's kind of like the more advanced version of GarageBand, which comes with most Macs. So you could use GarageBand if you have a Mac. It's free, I believe. If you don't have a Mac, there's a ton of other music production softwares out there that you could download. Some of them are free, some of them are cheap. Usually the more you pay, the more features you get, the more instruments, the more options. For a beginner, I would recommend just going with the intro option. It'll give you more than you need to explore and create music. So what's going on here? Let's move me out of the way here. And it's given me these what are called MIDI regions. And what I'm going to do is it's automatically assigned me xylophone and drums, which is what they are, but for some reason they won't play. So I need to create a new track, and it's going to be a software instrument. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag that down into there. And I'm going to do that same thing again. And I'm going to drag the drum track down there. Okay, then I'm going to delete those other ones because I don't know how to make them work. But so I'm going to, with the top track, this is the xylophone track. So I'm going to go on the right here and I'm going to find a xylophone. It is under keyboards, mallets, wide marimba. And then for the drums, I'm going to go to percussion, acoustic drum beats, 70s kit. These are just the stock sounds that come with mine here. Oh, sorry, you couldn't see what I just did, but this part on the right here is where I find all these sounds. So let's hear how this sounds. I'm going to press play. This thing at the top, if I click that, it highlights that 4-bar region and it's going to loop it. Sound familiar? Okay, so now we are in our music editing software and we can start to get creative with this. So I think the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the MIDI region of where the marimba is and I'm going to copy it. Now keep in mind, like every music editing software is going to have a slightly different way of doing this, and but it's basically the same idea. So I'm going to copy this region and then I'm going to create a new track. So I'm going to be on the marimba when I do this, so it creates another marimba track. So that'll just be easier. Okay, so we got another marimba track. Now I'm going to copy this MIDI region and go down here, press play. Oh, press copy, I mean, and let's drag it so it's in the same place. For some reason, of course, it never wants to go back. You got to zoom in to get it in the exact right spot. Such a pain. They should make it easier, but you know how that goes. You know what? I wonder if I go, let's see here. Man, they make it go at like a fraction of a second, which of course in music is the difference between a delay and actually being in rhythm here in time. So I have to go really small. Man, I bet there's someone that knows how to do this faster than me. Okay, it snapped. Okay, I'm in the spot here. Okay, so now we got two different of the same thing, the same marimba, except on the second one, let's go find another sound. How about an organ? Now we can hear it. That sounds like an organ to me. Cool. All right, so now we got this organ, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take, let's see, so I wanna make sure you can see all these notes. So this is like all these red notes here. I'm gonna copy all these notes, and I'm going to highlight them, and then I'm gonna bring them down. So what's that first note is on an F. So I'm gonna bring that to the octave below here. Now I wanna bring them down. And this is gonna become our bass. Oh, I did the wrong note. I did F sharp, not F. Okay. That sounds pretty cool. nasty organ. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the first note of each measure and keep the root. That's the root of each chord, and I'm going to delete the other ones because I'm going to take that root and I'm going to drag it. Instead of making it a quarter note that disappears, I'm going to make it a whole note that plays across the whole measure. So it's kind of like a bass that's holding down the harmony. Let's hear this. Okay. So first I'm going to delete. Then I'm going to take that first note and I'm going to drag it the whole way. Let's zoom in here. Okay. So dragging it to the next measure. Okay, I'm going to delete all these notes. And then I'm going to drag it to the third measure. Then I'm going to get rid of the notes that we don't need and drag it. And then I'm going to do that same thing for the fourth measure. Just drag it. Okay, so now when we play, we're going to, we kept the marimba, but now we have this other track that we duplicated, that same thing, put it in a different instrument, and then we just kept the first note and are playing, holding that note out for the whole measure. This is super cool. So it's starting to sound, we got the drums, we got the bass, and we got that marimba, the pulse, the arpeggio, keeping the pulse there. So what should we do next? Let's do the same thing we did for the low. We took the marimba, we brought it down. Let's bring it up an octave. Let's copy it and make a higher octave, and this will just add a little bit more twinkle to the song. All right. So I'm gonna go track, go to the marimba track, highlight it, and then I'm gonna create a track with duplicate settings. Okay, and then I'm gonna copy that MIDI region, bring it down, and then of course it doesn't put it on the thing, so I gotta zoom in and get it so it lines up perfectly. Oh, I think it actually did line up perfectly this time. Let's find out. Let's change the sound to see if it worked. So it's hard to differentiate the sound here because we're still in the same octave. So let's use a different sound here just to. So this is another organ. Let's just start there because we can hear it, and then we're gonna drag this whole thing up an octave here. Let's see how that works. So it's on F. Man, it's like you gotta have really small little fingers to make all this stuff work. Computers can be tedious, but it's the tool that we got. So I'm gonna try to get highlighted on that. Oh man, I keep on. I'm sure there's some people that are really good at this. Okay, here we go. Okay, so now it's an octave up. Let's keep exploring the sounds though. Find something else. Hopefully not something that's annoying. It's kind of nice. Oh, a dark choir. That's kind of fun. All right, so we got this dark choir. Now, what I want to do, let's take some of the same idea that we did for the bass, where we got rid of some of the notes and then we created a chord with them. So, or stretched them out in time. So what we're going to do is we're going to take each one of these notes that's an arpeggio and put it back into a chord, just like it started. Oops, we don't want to highlight the whole thing. So I'm just going to take one note for each measure and. All right, so there we go. Just moving it over. Okay, and I'm going to delete that leftover one because it's redundant. Okay, we're going to do the same thing. Oops. So I'm just moving these notes, the whole arpeggio, each note in there to the beginning of the measure. Okay. And then we're going to see how this sounds, okay? Sounds like a movie or something. Now let's highlight this chord here and then stretch it out. Okay? We can stretch all the notes out at the same time. And so we're gonna hold these notes out. It's gonna sound really cool. Oh, you know what? These ones I stretched a little bit too far into the third measure. Okay. It's kind of cool when you highlight them, it actually plays them. Okay. Now we're going to do that same thing for this last measure here, highlighting them out. Okay. It's like you have a whole choir of people singing these harmonies. It sounds epic. Let's go back to that marimba sound and maybe let's make that like a violin or something like that, a string. All right, I just had to take a 20-minute break because I accidentally closed the library of sounds where I was choosing the instruments. I finally figured it out, and all you have to do is press Option L. Look, it opens them up. So now I can go to that marimba. Let's change that marimba track. I want to find another sound. Something more, I don't know. I'm not sure what I'm looking for. I want something that blends in a little bit more with, let's maybe strings, pop strings. To synthesizers and see if we can find some synth strings. The massive strings sound maybe a little bit too much like the singing. I don't know. Let's check out the woodwinds. Ooh, maybe some modulated bells. Tubular bells. Sound all cheesy. Man, it's hard to find sounds sometimes. So now we found some mallet sounds that are a little bit more affected. I feel like that fits the vibe a little bit. Kalimba. You know, I like that first one, the cinematic vibraphone. Kind of has some reverb, so it sounds like it's in the same room. So I'm going to turn that one down a little bit. Just kind of adds to the ambience. Okay, now this is a really cool feature here. So we want to add a melody in here, and we could use the same method of going in, putting in one note at a time, just like we did for the bass, or all these different things. But I want to show you how this works, because it's just like with what we did with shared piano. I can play this to create a melody. And even if you don't know how the keyboard works, I mean, right now everything that we've done in Chrome Music Lab is in the key of C, so it's just the white keys. So I don't know if I like that sound though. It's kind of cool. Let's hear how it sounds. Let's just play. I'm not going to record. Quieter, starting to overdrive. Let's keep playing around with this. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna record something with this, and then we can start messing around with the sounds. So we're just going to play around. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to press the record button. So the R is highlighted, so anything I press is going to be recorded. Don't even have to press anything yet. So that recorded pretty sweet. Now that sound kind of takes over, so I'm gonna turn it down. Okay. Now we got this melody line. Let's play around with sounds. Europulse. I think that's kind of cool. All right. All right, so kind of cool to come back to the skeleton of what we started with. And, you know, you can see it's very simple what we started with, and then we just had a couple techniques of copying the track, moving it higher, lower, extending the notes to make a bass line, messing with instruments, finding ones that we like, and then going in there and kind of tweaking stuff around a little bit. And then if you have a MIDI keyboard, you can actually improvise on top of it while you have your song going. You can, even if you don't have a MIDI keyboard, you can actually set up your laptop keyboard to use as a MIDI keyboard. So there's so much to explore here, and that's really what this is all about, is showing you how you can start with just something really small, and then with a little bit of knowledge you can turn it into something great. So I hope you learned something. If there was things that did not make sense musically or what I was doing, you can go back and watch all of the videos, and you'll understand the terminology and kind of the musical concepts that go along with each term that I used. So I hope this was helpful for you, and I hope it inspires you to take what you know to the next level. All right, thanks for joining, and hope to see you at the next lesson. Thank you.